Hello, and welcome to our study of Cassandra Martin's ABCs of a Godly Heart. Today we're going to be looking at the letter S, satisfied. The word satisfied is a verb. It means to be content and to be full and at peace. The key verse today is Psalm chapter 17, verse 15, which says, "And I, in righteousness, I will see your face. When I awake, I will be satisfied with seeing your likeness."
That sounds beautiful, but we're actually more of a dissatisfied people, right? Contentment is not the language of our society. We are challenged to always want more, think bigger, and acquire greater amounts. But that hunger that drives us for more cannot be filled by the things of this world, because that hunger is designed to drive us to God. God made our hearts to be His. He shaped them for His glory and His purpose. Anything less leads to a restlessness of the spirit. And I loved how Cassandra worded that, the restlessness of the spirit, because I think all of us can think back to a time when we were driven by worldly things. Could be material possessions, friends, good works, shopping, accolades. I mean, the list can go on. And there is a restlessness that comes when we are filling ourselves with worldly things. We make it so hard on ourselves sometimes, and our hearts will continue to be restless until they rest in God alone. And it just takes time and training, I think, to get to that point and to realize that.
Today we're going to start looking at Isaiah chapter 55, verses 1 through 2, which says, "Come, all you who are thirsty, come to the waters. And you who have no money, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk, and without money and without cost. Why spend money on what is not bread, and your labor on what does not satisfy? Listen to me, and eat what is good, and your soul will delight in the richest of fare." It's such a simple invitation. Come. God tells us to come to Him and to enjoy the delight of His presence and the abundance of His table. Sometimes we try to satisfy ourselves with the fast food drive-through equivalents for our souls, and that does not give us satisfaction. But God is not asking us to fill up with fast food. He is asking us to join Him at a 10-star luxury banquet fit for a king. He reaches out His hand and simply says, "Come." In this passage, we see there's 3 parts of His invitation. First, God calls the thirsty to join Him at the waters of His joy. Without water, our physical bodies do not last very long. Dehydration robs us of life, vitality, and health. Thirst dulls our sensitivities, and the heat of life's pressures just suck the life right out of us. When we are thirsty, we feel empty and fragile and tired. But God invites us to the waters. He is the picture of abundance. He's not offering just a little sip of water, but He is asking us to come and plunge our souls deep within His fount. The fresh, clear waters of God's love are enough to satisfy us for an entire lifetime. Secondly, God invites the poor to come to His extravagant table. Poverty declares our great need, and we cannot provide for ourselves. There is empty space in our lives, and our own efforts have failed us. There's an empty space that craves to be filled. Hunger is a consuming and desperate need, and our own poverty makes it impossible for us to satisfy ourselves. The richness of God's grace is embedded within this invitation to come. His generosity pays for the meal, and He invites us to enjoy it. When we have spent ourselves in sin and in self-focus, God's great compassion and mercy invite us to the table. The food our soul has been craving is lavishly spread out on the table in an abundance of God's love. Third, God invites the poor, thirsty, and hungry to come into his abundance. He doesn't meet our needs with cheap ingredients and leftovers. He blesses us with the finest things that he has to offer. We can earn nothing and we deserve nothing, yet God spreads out a rich feast for us and invites us to sit at the table of his glory. He grants fruitfulness to those who accept his generous gift of grace. Every day from the moment we become his, this is a feast-filled day, filled with celebration and joy and overwhelming abundance. God calls us to dive into the ocean of his goodness and to be satisfied. We invest ourselves in so many things that ultimately leave us hollow and feeling empty. We give so much of our time and energy to these temporal things that are unable to satisfy us. But as crazy, stupid humans, we keep doing it. God invites us to come, to move away from the yawning chasm of the world that calls to us so loudly, and it threatens to devour our hearts and our souls, and to simply listen to him. His words hold life and truth, and his words are the only things that will truly satisfy us.
We're going to be looking at Psalm 107 today, specifically verses 1 through 9. So I'm going to read that for us right now. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord say this, those he redeemed from the hand of the foe, those he gathered from the lands, from east and west, from north and south. Some wandered in desert wastelands, finding no way to a city where they could settle. They were hungry and thirsty, and their lives ebbed away. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them from their distress. He led them by a straight way to a city where they could settle. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for men, for he satisfies the thirsty and fills the hungry with good things. So as we read that psalm, if you picked up on it, there are so many mentions of the many ways that the Lord redeems and satisfies his people. Some of the things that we read, he gathers us in, and I love that kind of imagery of gathering us in. He invites us into his presence and makes a home for our hearts. He straightens our paths, leading us to a place where we can settle in, find peace, and be at rest. Reminds me of that Rascal Flatts redo, God Bless the Broken Road.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that's God. He's going to straighten our paths for us and get us back on track. He also cleanses us. He refreshes us. Basically, he is going to be filling every empty space, and he's going to satisfy us with good things. And I don't know about you, but I definitely like the sound of that. And it's more than just satisfaction. It's being loved like no other can love us. It's a simple invitation to come.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and come back next week as we look at the letter T and explore God as our teacher and our response, which is to be his temple.